In the world today, we value intelligence a great deal. Intelligence is what allows us to draw conclusions from our premises. It allows us to find the best means to achieve our goals. The fact is that the modern world, with all of its achievements and conveniences, can't answer all of our needs. Modern technology tells us how to do many things, but it doesn't tell us what to do or why we should do it. So people are returning to the wisdom of ancient times. And among wisdom traditions, many people are discovering or rediscovering that the Chinese philosophical tradition is one of the most diverse, profound, and exciting of all the great wisdom traditions. I'm Brian W. Van Norden. I'm James Monroe Taylor Chair in Philosophy at Vassar College, where I teach Chinese philosophy and also traditional Chinese literature. I'm part of the generation that got excited about China after China opened up. To be honest, I also was really excited about the Bruce Lee film Enter the Dragon, and so I wanted to learn more about Chinese culture.
中国的哲学一定要在我们人类里边看出天跟地。
Being weak is stronger than being strong. What does that mean?
It changes fundamentally your understandings of things and open up new possibilities.
More than any other ancient philosophy that I've studied, Chinese philosophy really does well with the practical ends that can help us recognize our nature as humans and be able to maximize what we are.
We've lost sight of the wisdom traditions in contemporary society. And to that extent, we're lost. We need to go back to the wisdom traditions of the past in order to forge a new world for ourselves. Join us as we learn about the wisdom of China. In this episode, we're going to look at Lao Tzu, the legendary author of the Daodejing. It's been extremely influential in not just its native tradition, but has also influenced people all over the world for over 2,500 years. We're in Wúwéi, in Henan province in the People's Republic of China. This is the supposed birthplace of Lao Tzu. The name Lao Tzu is familiar to almost all Chinese people. A legendary figure in ancient Chinese philosophy, Lao Tzu is regarded as the founder of Daoism, one of the world's most profound philosophical traditions. He supposedly recorded his wisdom in the Daodejing, one of the most widely translated works in world history, along with the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. But so many things that we'd like to know about Lao Tzu are either mythical or at least historically suspect. He was known by many names, sometimes called Lao Dan, sometimes called Li Er. Even his name, Lao Tzu, technically just means old master, and it may not be a name at all. The earliest Chinese biography of Lao Tzu says that he was born during the spring and autumn period in ancient China. He was kind of a librarian in the Zhou Dynasty archives. This was put his lifetime over 2,500 years ago.
在司马迁所写的《老子列传》里面呢，提到可以称为老子的人呢有3个，年龄跨度呢长达200年。他说我暂时先写在这儿吧，我自己也不知道。
We're here in a private museum dedicated to Lao Tzu in the county of Wúwéi. In this room are literally hundreds of artistic representations of Lao Tzu. The one thing they have in common is that no two of them have the same face. But given Lao Tzu's philosophy, I think he might enjoy the fact that we don't know what he looked like and that we don't have a way of describing in words who the actual historical Lao Tzu was. According to tradition, late in life, Lao Tzu decided that he would leave China and head off to the West. And what happened next is a mystery. The border guard asked him to write something down before he left. That work ended up being what we know as the Daodejing. It's the brief enigmatic work, only about 5,000 characters. It makes reference to no particular individuals, to no historical events. It gives us no context for its utterances, but it has fascinated and deeply influenced Chinese thinkers throughout its history.
2000多年没有挖出老子的书，但是出来在1972年，长沙的马王堆出土了大批的帛书，也有老子的作品，大概汉代初年的。后来还有北大汉简，但是更惊人的是1973年在湖北的荆州郭店村挖出了3个老子的注解，是战国时代的抄本。
Basically, we had the same version of the Daodejing for 2,000 years. But Guinn version raises a lot of questions. It's the earliest surviving version of the Daodejing and dates from the 4th century BCE. It's much shorter than the received version, and the chapters are not complete.
郭店楚简来只有经本老子，就是王弼本老子的1/3。虽然个别的字词不太一样，但是并没有完全超出经本以外的新的内容。很有可能当时老子的主体已经完成了，在战国的早中期呢，已经开始流行了。
It's kind of like thinking about Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. At one time, we thought that there was one great blind bard who dictated both of these works. Nowadays, we tend to think that they're works that were done by committee. That doesn't change the fact that they're really great works of literature. We can say the same thing about the Tao Te Ching. On this fragile piece of ancient bamboo, we have a record of the invention of the concept of Tao being used to describe a cosmological concept. The earliest meaning of Tao is a path, like the path you take through a forest. We can find versions of it in the oracle bone inscriptions where it appears to be a picture of a crossroads. But then it comes to refer to the way to do something, especially the right way to live and the right way to organize society. And this is the way that most early Chinese philosophers used the concept. But what's distinctive about Daoism is arguing that the term can also be used to refer to an entity that existed before heaven and earth and is responsible for the way things are and the way they should be in ideal circumstances. There is a thing, shapeless yet complete, born before heaven and earth. How alone, how silent, independent and unchanging, it can be considered the mother of heaven and earth. I know not its name, but I nickname it the Wúwéi.
老子之前有《易经》《尚书》《诗经》，这些典籍并没有直接说我们现在所说的哲学问题。我们从哪里来，往何处去？万物的根源是什么？老子开始，中国的哲学才有哲学上所谓的形上学 （metaphysics）。
There's a common misconception that philosophy is something that people do only when they have nothing better to do with their time. But in reality, philosophy, whether it's in Europe or in Asia, develops when people are confronted with serious problems of social chaos and human suffering. This is what happened in ancient China during the Spring and Autumn and Warring States period. Over a period of about 500 years, China was torn by states competing for supremacy. There was a reigning monarch, the king of the Zhou dynasty. But though the king reigned, he did not rule. Real power was in the hands of the rulers of the states, usually dukes. These dukes fought one another for power, for wealth, sometimes just for survival.
在老子之前的2000年的历史里面，没有出现过这么强烈的这个巨变。 在孔子的思想里面有非常充分的表达，就是礼坏乐崩。
Here we have a copy of the Beijing version of the Laozi, which is the oldest surviving complete version of our text. In this passage, Lao Tzu describes the political situation in the era in which he lives, which drove people like him to first philosophize. The court is resplendent, yet the fields are overgrown. The granaries are empty, yet some wear fancy clothes and carry sharp swords. They're stuffed with food and possess wealth in abundance. This is called thievery. This is not the way.
伟大思想的产生啊，一般都跟时代巨变有关，需要哲学家用思考来解决这个时代的问题。另外一方面呢，中国固有文明啊，到了春秋末年，已经有非常丰厚的这个文明的积淀，已经在酝酿一种哲学上的突破。
Lao Tzu and Confucius are the two most famous philosophers of this era, but they are hardly the only ones. Indeed, this period is sometimes called the period of the 100 schools of philosophy because of the diversity of views. This complexity was later reduced to 6 major schools by the Chinese historian Sima Qian. In addition to the Taoists and the Confucians, there were also the Mohists, the Legalists, the Yin-Yang school, and the School of Names. Each of these schools had its own perspective about the way to live and the way to organize society. We're here in what is perhaps the largest collection in China of stone inscriptions showing a legendary meeting between Confucius and Lao Tzu. There are different versions of this story, but in all of them, Lao Tzu is the older, more established philosopher, and Confucius is coming to him to ask for his insight and wisdom.
时代发生变化了，旧的传统当中那些美好的东西，要不要保存？孔子的态度说：“我要保存，从过往的传统当中，然后生长出新的可能。”老子的路径正相反，老子是要破这个理的。
孔子比较讲道德，就是人伦关系，但是老子的道德有多层次的，人间这个层次的道德是跟孔子是一样的，但是到了宇宙的层次，道是万物的根源，但是这个道呢，又会内在于每一个人、每一个物。道的特性进入到我们内在的生命里面，所以得到道叫做德。
德者，德也，得其真性。每个人来到这个世间，他有他自己的潜能。如果你把你的这个潜能实现出来，道家认为你就有德了。而道呢，它是一个柔弱的方式，让万物成为他自己。我生出你，但是我不主宰你。生而不有，为而不恃，长而不宰。
道对万物的不控制，使得万物生机勃。万物呢可以有自己的主体性，而不被一个外在的力量束缚。这是老子追求的最高理想。我从来不认为老子是一个远离社会的隐士。《道德经》就可以说是对于历史的总结，以及对天道的一种体悟。
We're here at the Tiantan, the Temple of Heaven. Nowadays, this is one of the biggest tourist attractions in Beijing. But traditionally, the emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties would come here to perform ceremonies to thank and to honor Tian or heaven.
说文解字里说这个字啊，从一大，一和大都是指称那个终极实体的。我常常举个例子，美国人吓一跳 ，Oh my God， 中国人吓一跳，我的天哪！
我的天，right？
但是你又不能把它翻译成 God， 因为它有非常强的非人格性，这是中国文明的那个固有特点。
Chinese thought of heaven as a higher power that was on the side of virtue and morality and would reward it in the long run. In fact, the emperors of the Ming and the Qing believed that they had a mandate to rule, which had been given to their ancestors for their virtue and which they could maintain as long as they stayed on heaven's good side.
但是我们如果去看老子，天变成了万物之一，老子超越了天人关系，打造出另外一种哲学的体系，就是道物关系，这是老子伟大的地方。
Think of the Tao as absolutely everything in its purely non-differentiated state. We see a world around us of differentiated things. There's me, there's you, there's a table, etc. The degree to which we see the world this way is the degree to which we are removing ourselves from the Tao. The more we are able to sense the interrelations of everything around me, the more I can live effectively in the world, the closer we're getting to the Tao. Often when we use the term virtue, we mean it in a very strong ethical sense. For the Lao Tzu, what it really means is relating well to everything around you, so it doesn't mean you're acting morally, it means you're acting in accordance with the Tao.
Lao Tzu's reinterpretation of the concepts of heaven and earth and of the way and virtue appealed to many people later in Chinese history who were dissatisfied with what they saw as an overly moralistic and narrow conception of the way to live. This conception also appeals to many modern people, speaking different languages, in different periods in history, different cultures, and different religious backgrounds.
If we are seeing the Tao, we are realizing everything is interrelated. When you think of the values that the Lao Tzu is trying to undercut, it is chilling to note how totally predominant those values are. We live in a world where so much of the focus is about the individual constantly trying to impose on the world a set of understandings of what is good, what is bad, differentiating the world into sets of judgments. What I fear we are failing to do often is ask the big questions. Are we making the right assumptions, or should we rethink some of them? The key figures found Chinese philosophy very, very powerful are those who are trying to rethink a lot of the assumptions.
Our journey to understand Lao Tzu has brought us here to Copenhagen, the home of Niels Bohr, one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century and one of the founders of quantum mechanics, a theory that is remarkably successful but very difficult to interpret. But what really interests us is that Bohr was also an admirer of Chinese thought, and he believed that Lao Tzu could give us insights into quantum mechanics. Niels Bohr and his longtime friend and colleague Werner Heisenberg came up with what came to be known as the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, which believed that the most fundamental particles that make up the material world do not have a determinate location or motion until they are measured. For centuries, Newtonian science presented a world in which the states of physical objects are perfectly determinate and their behavior can be predicted with absolute precision. However, quantum mechanics reveals that the submicroscopic world seems to be governed instead by indeterminacy and probability. This shocking paradigm shift led to debates among the greatest minds in physics. Bohr had a long-running and intense but friendly disagreement with Albert Einstein about the nature of quantum mechanics. Einstein famously said, "God does not play dice with the universe." What he meant by that was that the structure of the universe has to be governed by causal laws that are determinate in their outcome. Bohr recognized, though, that what quantum mechanics revealed was a universe fundamentally guided by probability and by indeterminacy. only a flexible kind of logic like that derived from Lao Tzu could deal with the new quantum phenomena. In particular, the notion that yin and yang are paired concepts was very important according to Bohr. Understand the white while preserving the black and become a model under heaven. And if you become a model for everything under heaven, then constant virtue will never err and you can return to the infinite. Lao Tzu recognized that in the world around us there are things that depend upon one another but are also in tension with one another. And that it's only through these contradictions between things in reality that we get creation and evolution over time. In the classical Western tradition and logic that goes back to Aristotle, they claim there are no contradictions in reality. And if you encounter a contradiction, that's an error in your thinking. Quantum mechanics overturns the Newtonian conception of a clockwork universe. Even more shockingly, it calls into question Aristotelian logic, which had served as the foundation of Western philosophy for millennia. When Niels Bohr was knighted by the Danish government for his contributions to physics, he got to design his own coat of arms. And he put the Taijichuan on his coat of arms, which shows the influence of Lao Tzu's ideas on Bohr's thoughts.
At one level, I would say the Lao Tzu is not trying to teach us about the actual workings of the world in a strong sense. However, it does challenge our assumptions. One of the dominant modes now in natural science was extreme reductionism. So we're now learning with nutrition. You could do tiny studies of every single food we eat and all the nutrients in those foods and what they do to this part of our body. And we are now beginning to realize, actually, if you are thinking in more holistic ways, it changes fundamentally your understandings of things. This, of course, is something that's been part of Chinese medicine for millennia. Intentionally not see how things interrelate with everything else just leads to a complacency.
Francis Bacon, one of the theorists of modern science in the West, said that science was about forcing nature to submit to our will. However, Taoism offers an alternative view in which science and technology can be about cooperating with nature. We're going to look at a contemporary example that illustrates the Taoist approach, even though the designers may not have been aware of it.
你好，万教授，欢迎到我们敦煌首航100兆瓦光热电站。
This plant is part of China's Green Initiative, which seeks to make China carbon neutral in just a few years as a way of helping to address the problem of global warming.
这就是我们那个疾控室，所有的操作和指挥都在这儿完成。几千年前，中国人就已经知道通过太阳来取火了。实际我们现在利用的也是这个原理。 也就是我把白天的热量收集回来，在发电的同时做储备，到了晚上把这个储备好的热量再进行发电，所以呢，这是一个带储能的新能源的一个发电合一。这个镜子我们叫定日镜，是要跟踪着太阳在旋转的，它要把光全部打到我们那个260米高的那个吸热器上面去。这个大屏上，它就能看到每一个点上的温度。 说根据这个点的温度，他们来进行控制。
I feel like I'm in a science fiction film, and I'm an explorer who's visiting a civilization with advanced technology. The layout of the plant reminds me of a line from the Daodejing. 30 spokes share one hub, but it is depending on the nothing in the middle of the wheel that we have the usefulness of the vehicle. The concept of nothing in the Tao Te Ching is easy to misunderstand. It doesn't refer to complete non-being or the total deprivation of qualities. Nothing for Lao Tzu refers to things that are intangible, things that are not concrete, things that we often overlook, but are nonetheless essential to creativity and to productivity.
所有的能源来自于太阳，对大气当中。 不是产生热量，是把热量收集走，所以是一个真正的纯绿色新兴的这么一个产业。我们国家在联合国环保会议上承诺过，2030年实现碳达峰， 2060年实现碳中和。为了这2个目标呢，这几年就开始加大新能源方面的建设。
人类社会不断地在踩油门，而道家给我们的智慧就说要踩刹车。
道家呢，对于人类为了满足人的欲望而不断地开发的技术是保持警惕的，它最后会导致的是对人欲望的无限制的刺激。人是有限的，地球也是有限的，这样一个有限的存在，生活在一个无限的时空当中啊，不能为所欲为。但是他并没有说要让所有的人都住到山林里面去做隐士，因为老子在最后一章里面他就提到了，就是利而不害，为而不争。也就是我们这个社会呢，既要相处，但是呢要和谐相处。但如何才能够相处到最圆满的境界，是他一直在寻找的。这种寻找对于我们今天来说还是有意义的。
I certainly remember the first time I read the Lao Tzu back in high school, where I assumed the Lao Tzu is all about not having a state and where the sage would not be doing anything in a literal sense. And then I was struck by all of these phrases, things like, there are laws, but no one knows what they are. Well, why would there be laws? Why would you not tell them what they are? Then later I realized that do nothing doesn't literally mean you do nothing. What it means is you are seemingly doing nothing, but in fact, you are doing an incredible amount, but never in a way that seems overtly forcing anyone into anything. There's one beautiful line in Lao Tzu that will say, after the sage, through seemingly doing nothing, the people simply say, oh, we have always been like this naturally.
One of the most intriguing but also shocking things that you say in your book, The Path, is that we can think of Lincoln as perfect Laozian sages. Could you expand on that?
So Lincoln becomes the president. He is president of obviously a very, very divided nation where both the North and the South correctly see themselves as coming out of something called the U.S. Constitution. The key things that appear in the Constitution are things like slavery, because slavery was actively practiced by half of the state. And essentially the power of what Lincoln did is he looked back and he reemerges it by saying, no, the founding document of America isn't the U.S. Constitution. The founding document is the Declaration of Independence, which opens by saying, all men are created equal. And when that was written, Thomas Jefferson really meant that as being, we colonial subjects of the English crown, we should be treated equally, so we should not have to be taxed without having proper representation in Parliament. But Lincoln rereads those words to saying all humans are created equal, black and white, across the races, and slavery means we are failing to live up to our own vision of why we even exist as a nation. After Lincoln, that becomes the vision for America. He simply spoke it in a way that brought about that world into existence. That is a Laozian sage. He becomes the Tao that gives birth to worlds. We mistakenly and foolishly, according to Lao Tzu, think that strength lies strength. The most powerful person will simply try to dominate situations. Lao Tzu will argue it fundamentally changes our understandings of power. Think of strength as like that powerful rock, and think of weakness as like water. Water can simply shift with the circumstances, a rock cannot. A powerful leader who's overtly powerful is inevitably creating the seeds of his own destruction. If you're ruling by weakness, you're using their attempt to overpower you to undermine them. You're using weakness to destroy their strength.
Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Take that right leg up and go straight back into the target like this. Here. Tap. Good. Good. One more. Good. Great.
We're here to talk to my friend Alexis McLeod. Alexis is a professor here at Indiana University, Bloomington, and in addition to being an expert on Chinese philosophy and Mesoamerican philosophy, he's also got a forthcoming book on the relationship between the martial arts and Asian thought.
Tap! Here, and you're already high, and then all you have to do is extend that hip around.
I got interested in the martial arts as part of the Kung Fu craze in the 70s because of Bruce Lee's film.
I actually have a similar story, so I also got interested in martial arts through film. Enter the Dragon was a big one for me. There's this great scene. There's a guy on the boat who's challenging Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee says, okay, I'm gonna show you my style.
What's your style? My style? You can call it the art of fighting without fighting.
The guy says, okay, show me some of this style. And so Bruce Lee says, let's get on this boat and go over to that island over there. And once he gets in the boat, Bruce Lee unties it and allows it to go out into the sea.
Hey, what the hell are you doing? Hey, are you crazy?
And the guy is out there, you're not free. He's Bruce Lee, right? He could have engaged with the guy and probably beaten him up easily. He knows this guy wants to fight so badly, he's gonna rush into doing foolish things. And so he lets him out here and ends up overcoming him. He's used Wúwéi. One of the things that really takes students often to the next level is moving from the first stage of constantly fight, fight, fight like this to now using relaxation, using yielding, using empty space. Coming in and then bang. So here, same thing as that. Yes, exactly.
What might you do if somebody threw like a right cross at you?
Yeah, of course. So if you're punching and I can get out of the way, here, then I'm controlling, I can hear or I can hear, right? Something like this, right? When someone aggresses, allow that to happen and simply move with it and then wait for that opening that they present with that aggression, and then you make your move. This actually is very connected to Daoism, be like water, right? Moving to where it needs to go. You can going down here and then over like this. You can turn in. Things are continually changing. If we kind of say, this is the Tao, right, and I'm gonna make it concrete, then things have already moved beyond us, right? And so it's not the constant Tao. And this is very much behind kind of Bruce Lee's idea. So, every time we open up a class in Taekwondo, we start with particular set kick. After you do this over and over and over again for enough time, the next level is to then be able to do that in a non-forced way. There's this move called the kip up. You're on the ground and you got to push yourself up and jump up instead of standing. And I was practicing this, for over a year. I had the strength, I had the speed, I had everything I needed for this, but I just wasn't quite there. I would get it and then I would kind of fall. Right? My first teacher at the time recognized what was going on. And he said, okay, what I want you to try to do now is to do that same move, but this time, don't think about it. Take the idea of the move out of your head. In the first time, it happened. Right? And I said, what was that? Like, what was going on? And I think part of what was going on there is this is Wúwéi. Trusting my technique in a certain way, using that muscle memory and responding in this kind of natural way, was to move away from a forced kind of thinking about things into a non-forced thinking about things, and non-active. And when they get there, everything just gets better. Nice. One of the ways I teach the Daodejing in my classes is as a kind of ancient self-help text. Whatever goal we have, there's a kind of best way to achieve this, right? Which involves things like Wúwéi, recognizing the value of yin, etc. Right? Getting wisdom is a matter of taking that knowledge and make it your own. Nice. It's something we have to read and apply and understand through our own lives and through our own understandings, which really complete Chung, right? It completes the Daodejing.
Would you come in, please? Welcome.
Oh, this is lovely.
To our big castle. My first guitars ever.
They enlighten you.
Yes.
Metaphorically. And
This is the Laozi guitar I made.
The Tao has taken us to Hamburg, Germany, to meet Raymond Burke.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Great. Here's my big recording studio.
This is so cool. Raymond is a guitarist and composer who has written a heavy metal album using the Daodejing as its lyrics.
I'm not preferring the competent. One brings about.
Spirit of Lao Dan is my latest project. It took me about 2.5 years to finish. It combines my natural musical direction with my interest in Tai Chi and Daodejing. This one, the erhu, I played myself. I saw a Chinese guy playing the erhu and I thought, I have those jackets, I make it myself. This is my erhu.
How did you first get interested in Chinese thought or Lao Tzu in particular?
In '93, I wanted to start my rock and roll guitar player hero career. And then I got my injury with the nerve. I woke up, I had massive pain in my fingers. I had no feeling. And I had to live with it for about 4 or 5 months till I had the surgery. It took me 10 years to being able again to play guitar, almost I did before. It wasn't only that the nerve was broken down. Every 11 seconds, it throws my arm away. It was so bad.
You get a sudden surge of pain.
Yes. So I sit in my apartment and my room and thought, what can I do now? I'm a musician.
Welcome everybody. We start with the first move, Jinggang Daodejing, which means Buddha's warrior intense mortar. Do your inner connections.
Since '99, I guess. I am studying a little bit of Taijichuan.
And what made you decide to practice Taijichuan?
I can't really explain that, but when I saw Taijichuan, that's the one for me. When the depression is coming up, through the Tai Chi, I can adjust them. Then I came in contact with the sayings from Lao Tzu during the classes from my master, Jan Silbersdorf.
好，接着下来的这一位表演者呢，是今天晚上唯一的非亚洲表演者，来自德国的史阳先生。
史阳呢，1982年就来到了中国学习中文，学习中国的传统武术，并在之后的学习里认识了中国陈家沟陈氏太拳19世掌门人陈小旺。现在呢，在德国推广陈家沟陈氏太极。
Actually, when I was young, I was pretty much into punk rock. As a pretty wild teenager, actually, we had a lot of street violence. So my first idea was just to learn a martial art to defend myself. Then I ended up in the wrong class. A friend of mine from school brought me to a Tai Chi master. And I thought, how can this help me to fight some whatever kind of aggressive people on the street? I didn't understand. But then, the first lesson, I had some very nice, beautiful feeling of what they call energy flow or something. And after that, I met with some punks on a rooftop. We were drinking some beer and I was watching over the city and I was still sitting there having this feeling. I said, you know what, to my friends, I said, if this continues, this feeling, maybe I stop drinking. Everybody was silent and watching me. I said, oh, that's good, then you can drive the car. You know? But in the very first lesson, I realized, wow, that's my life. I stopped all the drinking and smoking. I stopped to be punk. Most of my friends from that time later, they died on drugs and alcohol or street violence. So it changed my life completely 180 degrees and actually saved my life. Lao Tzu writes in his Daodejing, human beings because of earth. Earth is because of heaven, heaven is because of Tao, Tao is because of itself. So what belongs to earth from us as human beings, we let sink to the earth, that we have a stable stance. Yeah, you push strong, okay? But I can push him easy. Because the heaviness goes to the ground. We stay stable, we get self-confident. But at the same time, by sinking down, the spirit becomes empty and it opens up to heaven, to sky. So we get the spiritual connection to what Lao Tzu is writing about Tao. This is why we practice Tai Chi, to bring the mental and the physical aspect into balance. Relax your shoulders, Yeah, that was already 2 centimeters. You feel it's falling down. In Tai Chi practice, it's always the same form, but when the balance becomes deeper and deeper, you feel connected to everything around you. It's not you doing the thing, but it goes through you. The more you come close to what is called emptiness, the more you come close to the realization of Tao. What I try in my practice is to reverse Daodejing 42. The Tao gives birth to the 1, to the 2, to the 3, to the 10,000. Yeah? I start from the 10,000 back to the 3, back to the 2, back to the 1, back into the Tao. You're connected to the Tao, you should act through but this, you don't need to hide from all this. You can take it as a field of application and experience. Again. And I realized for myself that the Tai Chi form can be a beautiful bridge to transport the deep mental experiences into normal life actions. It's a great tool to make everything one word.
This is my new place for the rehearsal room.
Raimund called me one day and said, okay, I want to do it with heavy metal. I thought it was a great idea. I mean, of my past anyway, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm very sure nobody did this before for the Daodejing.
Please come in.
Oh my gosh. Wow, this is so cool.
People always think that a wise one is someone sitting silently at home, playing a piano. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And this is a good chance to say, no, it's not like this. The inspiration to realize Tao can be found everywhere. Can be a smart kid, can be a wise teacher, but also can be heavy metal, can be whatever. If you realize the silence and the nothingness within the loudness, speaking about the heavy metal, then you really got it, man.
Yeah, that's great. Woo! Nice.
So this is our collection.
Wow.
Everything we have here are different translations of the Daodejing.
How many translations of the Daodejing are there?
Based on the current count, 2,052 in 97 languages. So last year I published this book. Almost 300 pages is just a list of the translations. I wanted to give you a copy. You can read how I assigned it. I think it's
To my best teacher, Brian from Misha.
I should have added my best teacher after Lao Tzu.
We're here at Nankai University in Tianjin, China, to meet Professor Misha Tad. I'm proud to say that Professor Tad is a former student of mine, and he started a center here at Nankai for global Laozi.
One of the things I've done in the last, we could say 5 years, is to find all the different kinds of translations in all the languages around the world. So the idea of global Laozi is to look at the entire phenomena of the text in the world throughout history. This is a Latin translation, no later than 1729. It's really the earliest encounter between Western philosophy and Daoism.
Was this a Jesuit translation?
Yes. The Daodejing has been translated more than any other work except for the Bible. The Bible has had hundreds of years of organizations that have intentionally tried to translate and spread it to every person on the whole planet. But the Daodejing had no such organization. People just reading the text and finding it interesting and valuable and wanting to translate it over and over again. The book right here, it says A New English Version by Ursula K. Guinn. Many of her very famous science fiction or fantasy novels have Taoist elements. She read this text in English, right, not in Chinese, for a very long time. And so this version, I would say, represents her understanding or her reimagining, like in chapter 28, knowing man and staying woman. In the original, it's not necessarily about being both man and woman, but it could be about certain qualities of aggression and passivity or these kinds of more abstract things, but she makes it very much a gender concept. And her translation is popular, that then it gets retranslated. So we have a Spanish version, we have a Dutch version. It's not just going out of China in a single simple direction, but you have these networks and branches of different imaginings of the philosophy.
Now, what about you? How did you first get excited and interested in Lao Tzu and the Daodejing?
So we also have that translation. So this is the translation published in 1972 originally by Feng Jiafu and his American wife, Jane English. It's probably the most popular English translation out of all the 600 translations. It influenced the counterculture generation.
Set me free, come on little girl.
In the 60s and the 70s, you have this movement of people who want to move away from Western modernization, want to go back to the land, and they look to East Asian culture. And so one of those resources was the Daodejing. And it just kind of entered popular knowledge. Even people like George Harrison in the Beatles, he selected a chapter from the Daodejing in English to be the lyrics to a song called Inner Light. My parents both read that particular translation when they were young teenagers. That was the first Daodejing I encountered when I was 14. I was fascinated from the beginning. I don't know why.
深受老学的概念是要互相学习的，它是一个开阔的视角。
Why have I spent my whole life studying this one book? All the words are very simple, but the meaning is not simple.
老子是我生命当中最为切合的一本古代著作。
In those few thousand words, all you have is abstract ideas on how to face very continually reoccurring human challenges.
The history of this vision and why...
And these abstract ideas very easily can cross cultural boundaries. And people all around the world can feel that it somehow is, the text is speaking to them. It doesn't matter if it's a myth or 100% historical fact. There's a culture that grows up around the text that's 100% real. You have the lineages of the passing of the wisdom, and the wisdom is accumulated through generations. It's not just information, it's how to live, how to be a person, how to understand your place in the world. And that's the level I think wisdom operates on.
人类生活是需要确定性，我们怎么才能在充满了不确定性的世界里找到那个确定性的根源呢？ 只能来自于哲学这样的整体性的对世界人生的思考。
你对老子感兴趣吗？为什么呢？
因为这是他第一章，就我们表演过。道可道，非常道；名可名，非常名。无名天地之始，有名万物之母。
故常无欲，以观其妙。 常有欲以观其教，
凡者道之动，弱者道之用。
Alle Dinge unter dem Himmel entstehen im Sein. Das Sein entsteht im Nichtsein.
Contria prosus, humana prudentia. Sopliantur igeni, at abundantes superfluent.
The Tao gave birth to the One. The One gave birth to the Two gave birth to the Three, and the Three gave birth to the myriad things.
Before I began this project, I had no idea how vast the influence of the Daodejing was in so many different aspects around the world. There is obviously a deep hunger, not just in the past, but in the world today, for not merely intelligence, but for wisdom. The Daodejing famously says that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We too are only at the beginning of our journey. Join us in future episodes as we continue to explore the wisdom of China.